Wright, my buddy. First Things First, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing is now joining us. So I'm about 20 years older than you. I grew up with those late Sunday games that had a Sopranos feel to it. You get around TV on Sunday, and it was Chuck Noll's Steelers and Madden's Raiders and Shula's Dolphins, and those three teams. Kansas City, by the way, in those eras was pretty good as well. But there were a handful of teams. The Vikings were very good back then. Washington was. And it felt like we didn't have cable television back then. Like, you sat around, and that was the game of the week, and everybody got around the TV. So those are my memories. When you heard John had passed, John Madden, what was your first recollection or memory?
Well, yeah, because of the age gap, I wasn't alive when he was still coaching. And obviously because of what I do for a living, I'm well aware of what he did while coaching. 10 years with the Raiders, 7 AFC championship game appearances or further. The best winning percentage in NFL history. He won 75% of his games. Belichick wins 67% of his games, just to put it in context. And yet somehow, Colin, that might be not the least impressive, but maybe the least important part of his resume. I think he's the greatest color commentator in sports history, not just NFL history, because his enthusiasm truly transcended the screen, and his ability to teach without making you feel like you were being taught. And, for those of us in the business, he reset the standard for what broadcasters can make. He called Super Bowls on all 4 networks, which will never be done again. I guarantee it, for no other reason than all 4 networks no longer have the NFL. And then there's the video game part of it. And I don't want to understate the importance of that because, Colin, I think there is a direct line between the younger coaches in this league being more of go for it, guys, better understanding clock management, and the fact that they are the first generation of coaches that played the video game, that played Madden. There is a direct line between guys my age who figured out how to handle a 2-minute drill because they had $20 riding on it with their college roommate after a few beers. And it's one of the reasons why guys and gals my age in the media can get so frustrated with coaches that don't get it, because it is literally something we learned as children thanks to that video game. And so he had 3 separate Hall of Fame caliber careers. And Colin, I think you can make a strong argument that Pete Rozelle maybe would be in the conversation, a couple others, but that of the last 50 years, there is no single human being more directly responsible for the growth and popularity of football than John Madden. From his coaching of an iconic franchise to his unprecedentedly great streak of broadcasting to the video game, the way it touched so many people and the way he became a part of our family's fabrics on Thanksgiving, I just think it's obviously a life well lived, and I'm delighted if there's any I don't want to say silver lining, but I'm really, really glad that he got to see that documentary that I know we're re-airing tonight. It's on Big Fox tomorrow.
Yeah.
That he was able to see that and experience that with his family because it was so well done and such an achievement for the people that put it together and a recognition of his career.
Something else, it made me think of you because you're from Kansas City. So when in the 70s, the Royals were great, and I can remember Amos Otis and Frank Wilson and Freddie Patek. I remember those teams, 70s and 80s, and the Chiefs were also good. And so my argument is, in the heartland of America, baseball and football were very close. In Kansas City, you could probably go right down this, and you know it better than me, half the town loved the Royals most, half the town loved the Chiefs the most. It is not close, and it's not just because of Mahomes anymore. If you went to Pittsburgh in the 70s, this is pre-Madden video game, you had Willie Stargell, Rennie Stennett, Frank Tavares, Dave 70s. As great as the Steelers were, the Pirates were wildly celebratory, fun personality. Look at Pittsburgh today. It's a football town. I'd say hockey is second. Is that I think your point is interesting, is that in the 70s, there was a real... I talked to Al Michaels about this last week on a podcast. I said, there was a moment in time when this nation was very split on baseball and the NFL. And then it lines up with Madden from the broadcaster to the video game when football has literally, and it's never slowed down. Does that make sense to you?
I agree 1,000%. And again, I don't want to sound self-important or overemphasize how it affected me, but I think I'm a good vessel for a lot of the viewers because there's no, I'm just a sports fan, that argues well. That's my only qualifications for this job. But I didn't understand a lot of the nuances of football until Madden taught them to me via the broadcast and via the game. Like, how did I figure out, dime coverage? You got to have that if the other team has 4 wide receivers. Because I kept losing Madden games to older cousins and friends. I was like, what the hell is happening here? And then he invented telestration. And football is a complex, nuanced sport. And for him to be able to make it palatable and for him to be able to explain what we're seeing while with a wink and a nod and a smile. And there are just so many parts of our now football watching experience that we take for granted. But like the turducken and Thanksgiving being a major moment, he is woven into that fabric forever. And so, yeah, I think that, and one last note on the video game, and we talked about this morning, they initially wanted to have it come out where it was 6-on-6 or 7-on-7. And John said, legendarily, you can't put my name on it. So they delayed the game multiple years in order to get the technology available to where they could do 11-on-11 football. And now it's, arguably or inarguably the greatest sports video game, most influential sports video game ever.
Well, I have to ask you, got a couple of minutes left, one NBA. I'm going to set you up for this. LeBron has hit 36,000 points. And it's funny, I've watched him a couple times in the last week. He's healthy and very dominant. He's still, his ability to hit threes now, it's just like a jump shot. It's like a mid-range jumper for Jordan now. Like he just shoots a three. Fun. It's just so easy. He has developed a beautiful, what do you make of 36,000? Put it in context.
Okay, so every single 1,000-point threshold, LeBron's the youngest to get there, and that obviously will continue after he passes Kareem eventually. He should pass Karl Malone at the very end of this season. But that's more about what he's accomplished up to this point. I think because the Lakers have been such a mess, and because folks are deciding that LeBron's side gig of assistant GM, he didn't do a great job at it this year, that we're missing the forest for the trees. Colin, who leads the league in 30-point games? That guy, even though he's missed a dozen games. LeBron this year is averaging more points than he has averaged in a season since 2009. Right now, the only guys averaging more points than LeBron are KD and Steph it's by a couple tenths of a point. He is averaging 28, 7, and 7 on 52% from the field, 35% from three. And by the way, we don't talk about his free throws anymore because he hits them now, 78% from the line. He is having, in year 19, 63,000 minutes in, statistically, a top-level LeBron season. That's an impossibility. That is not supposed to be available to anyone at this point in their career. Kareem was the best year 19 guy we had ever seen. He averaged 14 points a game that season. So I don't know if the Lakers are going to get it right. We'll see what they look like when Anthony Davis comes back. But the fact that LeBron right now is without question still one of, at worst, the 4 best players in the league, there's no precedent for it. And last night, him hitting 36,000 was met with, a yawn and a wave when he's in the midst of, once again, reminding everyone that he is the only ageless player in NBA history. So I hope the Lakers get it together, but I hope even more so that along the way we recognize what we're seeing because we'll never see it again.
As always, great context. Good seeing you, buddy. Nick Wright. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.